And today's discussion will be led by Shane Fisher. He's the founder of IAMSECURE, and he'll be joined by Claude Oosthuizen, who's the CEO of Cysec Bridge, as well as Ben Gold, who's an engineer at Cynet. And we've got our special guest today, Ryan Kulvik, who's a managing executive at I2 Special Risks. And today they'll actually just share practical insights on how organizations embrace AI securely while obviously staying ahead of today's cyber threats. So throughout the session, please feel free to ask questions. We do have a Q&A chat bot that is functioning. Kirsten, if you could please have a look at the questions that are being asked. Thank you so much for your help with that. And thank you everyone for joining us. And now, without further ado, it's my pleasure to hand over to our ringmaster, Shane Fisher. Over to you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Maybe we can just introduce ourselves. Claude, you go for it. Just a quick who you are.
Yeah, sure. Thanks very much. So good afternoon, everybody. My name is Claude Oosthuizen. I am the CEO and co-founder of Cysec Bridge. We are a cyber resiliency managed service provider focused on the small to mid-market business segment. And really what we do is we assist businesses become more cyber resilient without the complexity or burden financially of building their own in-house cybersecurity or SOC teams. As you know, that's quite an expensive exercise. Our mission really is really simple. We help businesses prevent attacks. We help them recover quickly if something does go wrong or should go wrong. And ultimately, we assist them to keep their business running during an incident. And we're very fortunate that we probably worked with the biggest and most expensive insurer in the country today. And thanks, Ryan, for joining. And we cover that and we wrap it up very nicely with our cyber warranty, which means if there are any out-of-pocket expenses as a result of a breach or incident, you are obviously covered for those costs, which is fantastic. And really, Shane, thank you. I love the theme. Yeah. Thank you so much for the invite today, and I'm really looking forward to this conversation.
Absolutely. Please, this is a discussion, so we're not going to bombard you with 1,000 figures and facts and that. We're just going to rather let's have a chat. You know, Ryan, don't you want to quickly just introduce yourself, please?
Just good afternoon, everyone. Ryan van der Korwijk. I'm a managing exec at I2 Special Risks, which is a specialist insurer on behalf of Hollard. We have about 29 different products in our armory, from professional indemnity, medical malpractice, through to cyber insurance, which is most relevant today. We also have an AI specialist insurance product. Been with the Hollard Group for almost 11 years now. Started cyber insurance at Hollard, and we may be one of the bigger, but I'd like to argue with Claude, I don't think we're the most expensive. I think we're about the cheapest. Otherwise, it'll be Thursday specials and 25% off all premiums.
No, I was saying the most experienced, so it might have come out incorrect.
Ryan, I also heard expensive. No, you're not getting an invite to Ryan's next lunch. Fantastic, thank you. I'm Shane, and been in tech for 30 plus years, and fell in love with security probably about 8 years ago. And I've had the privilege to partner with these guys. Great bunch of guys, having a lot of fun with them. Somebody's just popped up. Hi, team. Will this be recorded session be shared? Yes, it will be. And yeah, so just having fun. You know, the whole AI Circus thing. We're going to chat a bit around that, and hopefully it sparks some thoughts. Ben, don't you want to just give a quick bio as to who you are and how you fit in?
Yes. Hi, everyone. So my name is Ben Gold. I'm working in Cynet for almost the last 7 years now. Actually started as an incident responder, and currently I'm a security engineer. Cynet is a unified AI solution to protect many vectors of cybersecurity in one platform. If it's the endpoint, the email, the network, the identity, the SaaS and cloud, and etc. And we'll find out in this webinar why it's so important nowadays.
Lovely. Thank you so much, Ben. All right, let's kick it off. We've got 4 topics we're going to discuss. And if any of you've seen any of the LinkedIn posts, you would have seen that we've been teasing some of these images. And the first topic we're gonna kind of touch on is the AI that's already living in your environment. So when you think about AI and what's happened, I mean, it's really a buzzword. We've had machine learning for the last 50 years, but in terms of what we're able to achieve with these LLM models and the like, it has really changed the narrative. So let's consider that in any organization, let me actually repeat it, in every organization, there is the potential, most likely, probably over 90%, that people inside that organization are utilizing AI right now. So if I had to say, let me start off with Claude. Claude, what is like that a crazy thing that you've experienced in terms of people deploying an AI in the environment and not putting up guardrails, for example?
So that's a good question. And strangely enough, I can share a story. I won't say who, what, or where. So we obviously work with consultants in the GRC space. It's part of our ethos. It's how we plug into the ecosystem. And I was chatting to a guy, and one of the things when he was consulting with a particular business, they were just about to launch and deploy a Copilot. And he suggested to them that, before they just simply go and deploy it, let's have a look at putting some sort of guardrails and, let's look at access and all those kinds of things. And I think probably due to the cost factor and then looking at, by the way, it's not expensive, the CIO turned down that offer. Fast forward a couple of weeks, as ladies do and receptionists, they get bored. And she basically went in and asked Copilot, what do people earn? What is the salary schedule look like? And obviously, AI being AI, do I understand the question? What are you asking me? Do I have access? And it obviously presented her with some form of a salary or wage schedule. And subsequent to that, she didn't just keep it to herself. She obviously shared it with her closest mates. So following on from that, there's now a massive CCMA case and potentially other infringement cases that's going on. I mean, that just speaks to the fact that, AI is very helpful, is very useful. But I think without managing the guardrails and how and who and what we use it and what it's got access to, depending who's asking, I think it's extremely dangerous.
Absolutely. I mean, this is a real world example. This is not some fictitious thing that has occurred. Claude and I chatted about this, and the reality is that if we just allowing these things to go rogue in our environment, internally, this is not talking about the outsider threat. This is already what's there, what's living, what's breathing in your environment. And you don't put guardrails up. I mean, you're in for a bit of a surprise. Now, I wanted to ask you, Ryan, when you guys kind of look at pricing out the, at managing incidents related to, from an insurer's or an underwriter's position. If an incident like this has to happen, can you tell me how do you discuss that kind of risk? Would you pay out a claim on something like this? I mean, it's a loaded question, but.
No, absolutely great question. So in sort of an example like that, where you have had data exposed from the AI, that very much would trigger a cyber insurance policy, and it would pay out. I think the big risk that companies need to look at is, in some instances, I'd say they were lucky that this was internal and wasn't a breach externally. The big worry is if you've got your IP or sensitive information relating to your business, which you've now exposed externally, and the implications of that. So that's why the guardrails are really important. So yes, the cyber insurance is there and it can kick in and it can give you some level of protection and assistance, but it is not ultimately going to pay for the potential damages incurred if, for example, you now leak out your sort of crown jewels or intellectual capital, which your competitors have now got access to, because once Pandora's out of the box, you can't put her back in.
Yeah. So that's to your point. I mean, talking about data leaks. So, I mean, that's a frightening reality. Imagine you've got some formulas, and there's a chemist that's working on that formula. I mean, it's your patent. You've spent hundreds of thousands of dollars to patent that, and somebody's using Claude or Chat or something, and that data gets, compromised throughout the business. I mean, this is frightening. So there have to be some kind of guardrails. In terms of that, like Ben, from a technical side, okay, is there even a way to see, if people in an organization are utilizing tools that, I mean, I use the word shadow AI there, so it doesn't even need to be shadow, but let's call it shadow AI. Is there a way where we're utilizing something within, for example, the platform that you guys have got, where you can pick that up?
Great question. And I think that in the question you even say the answer, which is if there is a way to see it. And yeah, the first step is visibility, because you can secure what you can't see. And many organizations are surprised when they discover how many tools their employees are using in the day-to-day. And modern security platform like ours grant full visibility into an organization. We see every executed file, every installed software, every login, every traffic, and etc. And that's how we can identify if there are AI activities and across many vectors. So if a Gen AI was accessed from the web browser, or if it was installed on the desktop. And that's really crucial, because then it's also about balancing security and productivity. We never recommend to just block all AI access and that's it, but it's just better to provide approved AI solutions, to apply policies and alert on risky behaviors, rather than simply blocking everything.
Lovely, thanks, Ben. It just beckons the question. So there's probably a couple of million AI-based applications out there at the moment. So, I mean, it's frightening how much data could be exfiltrated. People don't want to use DeepSeek because it's this or that. So, I mean, this again. Here's a slide, a nice little slide there about the full scope of exposure. This is not somebody. You're not trying to. I mean, you are trying to prevent data leakage, but this is not somebody who's doing something malicious. This is something helping you in your environment, and yet it could potentially be exfiltrating data. And I'm sure we're going to see more of this happening as these tools become more intelligent, agentics, for example. So let's move on to the next kind of topic. So we've spoken around this inside your environment, the thing that's already there, taming the lion. I must say I watched it. I actually read the book and watched it as a child, the first iteration. And so I've always had a thing. I don't potentially like clouds. I really don't. So when I found this image, I thought it probably suits how I feel about clouds. So let's talk about that world. Okay, we've spoken a bit about about taming the lion, and I'm going to throw it almost back to you now, Ben. And I want to ask you something. The hackers that are out there at the moment, those threat actors, the bad guys. How is AI enabling them to do their bad activity? What is is there? Can you give us a little bit of a picture of what it looks like?
Yeah. Look, the biggest advantage that AI now gave those attackers is attacks now happen at machine speed. So if before an attacker had to stop and think after every stage of an attack, for example, matching a vulnerability to an exploit, enumerating logs and analyze them, and etc., AI is doing everything for him automatically without pausing for a second. For example, a practical example, it allows attackers to generate a phishing mail, automate reconnaissance, and inject a malware in one button. And that's a huge headache for IT teams and security teams, because manual investigations takes more time than running those fast attacks. That's why security teams now need also to use AI tools for faster investigations. And a good example for that would be, I don't know if you saw, maybe it was published yesterday or the day before, OpenAI released an AI red teaming bot that totally went out of control. They ran it in a safe sandbox environment, and it actually lateral moved to another environment with a network and enabled some zero-day attacks to exfiltrate data, and it was huge.
That's crazy.
That's crazy.
I mean, and obviously, I'm understanding its scale, its speed, and that's why you guys have obviously built AI into the back of your platform. So, yeah, from that point about the speed and the scale, I mean, Claude, you living and breathing in this world. I mean, you guys run a SOC. What kind of damage is that kind of like? How expensive would that kind of damage be? I mean, have you, I don't know if you've experienced it. Hopefully not, but
yeah. So no, absolutely. This is the space we play. We're at the coalface, right? So a good example, and once again, it's a good use case. The client's mobile device was breached, and within the space of under 2 minutes, we picked it up, shut it down. That's obviously before we've had Cynet, but that thing had spawned over 3,500 emails.
3,500 emails in under 2 minutes.
Okay. Now, fortunately, it wasn't malicious. It was purely credentials. But the aftermath of going back, 3,500 people saying, "What have you sent me? Why must I click on this link?" Dealing with that from
it's a ripple effect.
The ripple effect that we spoke about the other day. So, the speed and the scale is something that is absolutely scary. AI moves in real time at the speed of light, as I like to call it.
Yeah.
And if you don't have the ability to contain it, it's going to cause massive damage.
That's hectic. So, on that point, Ryan, are you guys seeing a lot of guys that are being that are potentially putting in claims or are being hit with the scale and the speed of AI in your environment?
It can sometimes be a little bit difficult to identify. So I think some of the key areas where we're seeing this is we've seen quite a big spike in data exfiltration incidents of late, where it seems as though there could have been AI utilized to exploit vulnerabilities and then move within an environment and hide itself within that. What we have seen quite a lot of, and I would say this is probably for the last year and a half, is where AI has been used in a lot of social engineering attacks. So both from going to build a profile of somebody, trying to bypass or guess their credentials, to where there is unauthorized access into mailboxes, trawling through those, identifying potential attack vectors. So, where are their transactions being discussed from a financial nature, drafting the mails around those, manipulating the documents for fraudulent transfers, those sorts of things. So we are absolutely seeing AI being utilized in attacks. And as the frontier models evolve, we anticipate that that's a trend that we will see on an upward trajectory.
Absolutely. That's frightening. I mean, there's a reality to it. So, we've had a look at the lion that's already inside and how, we need to contain it. We need to tame it. We've seen, the scary clown about those threat actors that are using the stuff at the speed of light. You're seeing it across three different areas, three distinct areas: the platform provider, the SOC management, and you're seeing it in terms of the underwriting. The reality is, though, we're not going to get away from AI. No. I mean, let's be honest. It's here to stay. So how do we navigate this high wire, if I want to call it that? Kirsten, if you don't mind just moving on to the next slide. So in this AI circus, okay, we've got a high wire up there. AI is going to happen, whether we like it or not. What do we do around having to deal with it? I'm going to ask you, Ryan, because we ended on you last. If we talk about leadership responsibility, okay, when an automated system makes a costly mistake, is there still an ability for the executives to claim that they did not know, or are insurers drawing like a harder line?
Good question.
So I guess it's not so much the insurers drawing a harder line on it. I think the potential exposures relating from AI are still becoming known to insurers. So you're not seeing as robust a potential exclusions, the things around that. Where I think directors and officers of businesses are a lot more exposed is when you start looking at, in South Africa, for example, the regulatory environment with the King Code of Conduct, and directors and officers sorts of insurances where boards, if a company, where boards can take actions against the directors and officers. So to paint you an example, if it is seen that a company has implemented AI recklessly, and that has then resulted in a compromise of data, or the AI has gone rogue and caused operational disruptions to that business, or perhaps made incorrect assumptions which have led to losses within the business, there could be action against those directors and officers within their own personal capacity as a result of their fiduciary duties as a director or officer of that business. And they may well then be exposed, not just from a business perspective, but in their own personal capacity. So as we sit now, it's very difficult for directors and officers to turn a blind eye. They are personally exposed. And the risks, I think, are being quite widely publicized. Not necessarily fully understood as yet, but enough publicized that there is an argument that directors and officers should be considering what the usage of their AI is, how that's being utilized in their environment, and looking to safeguard and protect the data that sits in their environment or has been entrusted to them.
Excellent. It's very interesting. I mean, you're starting to paint a picture now. If you think about, I mean, so AI goes and makes a mistake in an environment, and there's a big defrauded case, and let's say if the financial services climbs in, regulator climbs in. I mean, they obviously can be held personally liable. I mean, that's quite frightening. And I mean, we're utilizing these tools every day.
Every day.
Ben, how do we put a safety net under that? I mean, before you answer from a technical perspective, I'm just thinking now. We definitely, from within our organization, we follow a policy of a thought methodology of people, policy, process, and then the tool. So again, cybersecurity is not a technical problem. It's not an IT problem.
No.
It's a C-level exec problem. It's a board director problem. It's a business problem. So you need to get that GRC stuff right. You need the people, the policy, and the process. But in terms of the tooling, Ben, how do safety nets work in this case?
So now that organizations begin trusting AI agents to perform business actions and take even more and more capabilities on themselves, monitoring becomes even more important than enabling the AI itself. Examples for a real safety net of working with AI means least privileges. Starting a few weeks with read-only permissions, and only then allow editing after you monitor for those weeks that everything is okay and everything is in control. It means continuously validating what the AI is doing, detecting behavior, and being able also to intervene if something suspicious happens, like a red button. This is really important. Whether it's accessing sensitive data or executing unexpected actions or interacting with critical systems, organizations nowadays to have real-time visibility and combined with strict limitations and being able to act immediately when needed.
Excellent. So it's a combination of a couple of things. I mean, if I'm putting it together.
Yeah.
I mean, Claude, you're talking about what happened with this consultant that I mean, if they put some leadership practices in place, then if they've been following the people policy process and actually implemented some guardrails, are you finding people are doing that, or are they still like oblivious to it?
So look, I think we're in the fortunate space in that we deal with some big enterprises as well.
Yeah.
And I think because it's historic and legacy, those guys are they understand that process. We're just talking about. Unfortunately, when we start engaging with some of the mid-market guys, automatically, You talk about AI, so automatically you get routed to the IT manager. And they're missing something extremely big. And to Ryan's point earlier, it could be held personally liable. And if you want to bank your future and your business on your IT manager, who, if you fire him, he's just going to get another job. As a director or shareholder of a business, you have your fiduciary duties. And I think there's still a massive, massive education thing, because there's 2.3 million mid-sized markets or mid-sized businesses in the country, in South Africa. And a lot of these guys are kind of flying by the seat of their pants, whether willingly or ignorance, we're not sure. But it's that mindset that there has to be a paradigm shift to understanding that it's a business problem. You cannot just rely on IT.
And that comes from leadership. I mean, that's
absolutely. Yeah, no, 100%. People need to be accountable, and I think as part of our process, it's a lot about education, and there'll be a lot more content coming out in the weeks and months ahead. Is where we have to educate leaders within organizations. Whether it's some individual with a role and a mandate, or a leadership team that's responsible. We have to. Those are the guys that we need to be talking to. We've completely changed our tact. I want to speak to the CFO, the COO, the chief risk officer. Those are the guys who understand the impact of not implementing people, policies, processes. Absolutely.
Yeah, that's now there we go. So nice segue, hey? And there was no prompting there. So we've spoken about taming the lion, and we've spoken about the external threat actor, the send in the clowns, Shirley Bassey, Soul for Older People, and we've touched on having this high wire. We're going to have to navigate AI. We don't have a choice. Autonomy is going to live in our world, but you got to put a safety net, and it starts with people, policy, process, and then the tool. Please don't go put a blooming tool in first. Yes. Clayton's just dropped a message. I don't think education gap is necessarily willingness, but rather resource constraints. Absolutely. And that's exactly what we're going to talk about now. So again, thank you for somebody. We're going to send you out the slide decks. You can see how we're fighting AI with AI and all that kind of stuff. Sub 1 second response times, remediation, 90% remediation, all those wonderful things. You can read that on your own. I hate slides with facts and figures. But let's talk about brass tacks, because it sounds great to say, okay, we got all these things, all these challenges. I think about the poor people in the financial services industry, which have got 100 other extra things they have to do. Not just worrying about these things. Other regulatory compliance requirements. When we talk about the cost of this, how much does it cost? I used to always be in the markets I've been in historically. We've often been driven by. I come out of a technical background, but I was in development for many years, and you're driven by a bottom line. Okay, always. So you're targeted, and you got to drop your 300 million, otherwise you're out of there. Okay, and I think that there's been a challenge in that space in the tech industry over the last 30 years, where people have sold things. I don't think, I know, because we would do audits in environments, and we would see misimplementation, mismanagement, because the sales guys sold out something, spent 20 hours wine and dining with the client, and they've sold out something, but then the implementation might have been okay, but then you don't hear from them again, until renewal dates in 12 months' time. And when they need to pay for their F1 advertising for next year. So the reality is, now I'm not knocking anybody. There's lots of tech companies on F1, please. I just watch F1. I'm not knocking anybody, so nobody take offense, please. So, George, you must be seeing that guys are shying away from this huge capital expenditure. Besides the small and mid-market who have never had access to doing a 20 million rand deployment of a network monitoring solution, So what are you seeing there?
No, look, I think, they always say you can never be fired for buying IBM, right? So the bigger guys are continuously buying these products, and they're good, and they're great products, and they might work in enterprises. The challenge we see in the mid-market is that when you buy a tool, the tool is as good as the person sitting behind the keyboard, right? There's upgrades, there's patches, there's fixes, there's configurations, and to your point, and we keep throwing the market with tools. And I think that's where Cysec Bridge a couple of years ago went, you know what, this market's undersold. We've had enough of tools. Let's build a service. Let's bring that enterprise thinking, thought process, put it into a package, and let's provide the mid-market guys a proper quality service.
Aggregated value.
100%, 100%. You know,
so enterprise grade, but at a month to month, understandably, and maybe an annualized contract.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
But you're paying for it month to month, so consumption based.
100%. You know, so I mean, if you look at you've got to back up your data, right?
Yeah.
And we talk about validated backups because you could be backing up nonsense for months, you wouldn't even know.
Yeah.
So back it up, scan it. You know, is it air gap? Is it immutable? You know, 24/7 monitoring. We implement the service, we manage it, we monitor it 24/7. If something happens, okay, we have a team of people that kind of jump in and help you with through that problem.
And I mean that as opposed to, let's say, the DIY SOC, do it yourself.
Oh no, that's, you know, SOC is specialized. It takes a specific skill. You know, it's not just a normal IT function. And a lot of the IT guys, unfortunately, that's what they
end up
and that's what they sell to their management. But you know, having a service is number one. Your time to value is extremely quick. You have a team of people working with you at a fraction of the cost of trying to skill and do that yourself. You know, that financial burden that 120 or 200,000 rand stripped out of your balance sheet it hurts as opposed to amortizing it. And also, companies start with a different level of maturity. Every company is different. You know, as you say, it starts with the leadership. It has to permeate.
One SOC doesn't fit all.
Absolutely. Jump roll.
So on that point, Ryan, do you think that the underwriters or the insurers would look, you know, if they had to look at, let's say, somebody doing it to DIY or somebody using something that's, let's say, got some good credentials, MICA, all kinds of other certs, do they look at these things differently when you guys do the underwriting?
Absolutely, we do. So the underwriting looks at what your security posture is, what are the control mechanisms that you have in place to manage that security posture. So having reputable providers and assistants that can proactively manage and look after environment does count for a lot and does have a direct impact on what the insurance premiums are. Maybe just to add on a little bit about the sort of CapEx versus OpEx discussion, I think when you look at it, and I put on sort of a consumer of security services now, the benefit with being on that sort of operational versus CapEx model is, one, you don't have the big capital outlay, so you're not necessarily married to the technology, irrespective of whether or not it still remains relevant. Not putting pressure on yourselves or Cynet, but when I'm on an operational model where I'm paying on a monthly basis or an annual basis, you kind of got to prove yourself to me on an ongoing basis and provide value to me. Otherwise, there's 10 other vendors that are knocking on my door. So that helps you as a client to ensure that you've got a partner from a security perspective that is constantly looking to shift the envelope, look after you, protect you, impress you, and look and keep you in a positive sort of frame as such from a risk perspective. So there's, beyond just the sort of balance sheet items, there is that mindset of ongoing engagement, improvement, and evolution as the risk landscape changes, as opposed to being married to something because it cost you a big whack of money that you had to convince your CFO of upfront.
And that's brilliant, because the big issue has always been the fact that fire and forget. You know, they go and drop off a box and then they only come when it's, and I mean, I see a lot of the guys are now doing these 3-year things where you pay for it for 3 years in advance. So what happens if in year 2 your business structure changes, your requirements, your needs, the threat landscape changes, and that tool doesn't evolve? You're stuck.
Yeah.
So
you can't shift.
Sorry.
And you potentially paid a fortune for it, so you can't shift.
You can't shift it.
No.
You can't rip and replace. That's scary, yeah. So I mean, we've seen it in other sectors of obviously of the industry before. You know, when virtualization came in and all these kind of things, we saw how people couldn't just rip and replace. You know, old architecture didn't work. But I think with AI, this is going to become more of a threat. Because these threats are evolving, they're changing, they're morphing. The attack surface is just, it's exploded. Never mind the stuff inside, never mind the stuff outside, never mind the fact that we're going to utilize these tools in our business operations. The reality is we don't know what next year is going to look like. Next year, this time, we don't have a clue. If you'd said to me 2 years ago that people would be vibe coding, the bulk of half the applications that are currently being created, I would have said to you rubbish. But it's a reality. So this thing's just going to accelerate. So we're going to start heading towards the end now. I think I want to wrap it up. So sorry, this is some of the Cysec Bridge services. We'll drop out the slides to you guys. I just want to wrap it up. You're gonna do the thank yous and everything. I don't have to. I'm not responsible for that. I'm so glad. Just want to wrap it up. We've got a threat intel report, which we'll send to you guys. It's something that gets brought out on a monthly basis from Cynet, and it's qualified statistics on what's happening. So it's not stuff that somebody's dropped into a LinkedIn post because it looks sexy. It's actually qualified information. And I want you to consider this. So if we look at people, policy, process, and the tool, I'm going to encourage you to engage with Claude, or myself if you want to. I'm going to encourage you to engage with him. You don't have to buy anything. Just have a conversation first. Get your priorities right in your business. Even if you're a mid-market business, listen, guys, this is not a joke. If you're in financial services, that joint standard from June last year, it's going to come down and it's going to start hurting people. In fact, we're going to definitely run some kind of webinar around the joint standard, so we can unpack these things and see what they mean in real life, not just on a
layman's terms.
Yeah, in real speaking language, And I think that would be my commentary. Is my call to action would be speak to Claude, reach out to him. They've positioned. They have pivoted. They had fragmented tools. They've taken the Cynet platform under our guidance and our management into their environment, so that they don't have this fragmented approach, and they're offering it on an OpEx model. So, and this adds value, So, from my side, I'm done. Any last commentary from your side, Ryan?
Sorry, to find the unmute button. Absolutely, I think it's important to try and get on the front foot in managing your exposures and your risks. So your advice to engage, get insights. The more information you have at hand, the better decisions that you can make. AI is not going anywhere. We can't put our heads in the sand. But if we are well informed and we think through these things logically, I think we can find ways to better protect ourselves, or at least build fences and walls that are higher than our neighbors to look after both ourselves and our businesses. So the invitation to go and study up and get the insights is a really good one.
Okay, fantastic. Thanks, Ryan. Ben, any last commentary from your side?
Yeah, maybe around the last topic. I think that the budget is not the only challenge for a growing organization, but also complexity and time. And every additional security product adds another console, another agent, another integration, and more people has to manage it. So that's really something which is really important nowadays, is consolidating those capabilities into a system without blind spots. And I think that it connects directly to everything that we just talked about in the webinar.
Wonderful. Thanks. Thank you so much, Ben. Claude, any last comment from you?
No, look, I think there's going to be a lot more of this content coming out. And to Ryan's point, it's a lot of it's about education and not just selling services. It's talking to customers, laymanizing the complexity and the technology, determining the terms that are out there. So that makes sense.
No computer ease.
If you understand something, you understand the impact of it, then you can make an informed decision. Before you run out and go and spend money on something that doesn't really add value. So, but I just want to say thank you to everybody. It's been really, really great this afternoon.
Yeah, we're going to do some more of these and some podcasts coming down the line. So keep us connected. If you're not connected, just go and do, the usual thing as they always say in these YouTube clips and that. Go to IAMSECURE, go to Cynet, go and look for my name, go and look for Ryan's names, connect to these people. These people are in the know. The stuff that they're going to comment on and they're going to speak about in LinkedIn and Ben and the Cynet team, They come from a space of knowledge. Connect with them. It costs nothing just for that engagement, you know. Therefore, over to you. Thank
Thank
you.
you so much, Shane. I'd like to thank everyone for joining us today. Thank you, Shane. Thank you, Claude. Thanks, Ryan. Thanks, Ben. And thank you, all the Cynet team for assisting with setting everything up. And obviously, everyone that's joined us today. I really hope this discussion has given you a lot of insight and a lot to think about. But if you do have questions, I did see questions in the Q&A box. We will respond separately to each one of you on those questions, and we'll share the webinar as well as the slide deck and I think the threat intel report. So on behalf of all of our partners, thank you for spending time with us today. I hope you have a wonderful afternoon, and we'll see you at our next event. Stay safe and stay secure.
Well done.